Well, good morning, everyone. I hope, as I mentioned, you've got a cup of coffee and are ready to start the day. This would have obviously been in a breakfast briefing environment, and we would obviously have pastries, maybe some bacon butties, getting you all raring and ready to go. But obviously, due to COVID, we're doing this as a webinar series. It's quite exciting. Anne-Marie has been, and the team, the marketing team, have put this together as a series that we've started, and this is what we're kicking off. So today we're going to talk about SME's Guide to Intelligent Automation and where to start. Over the next sort of 25 minutes, 20 minutes going to discuss what that market is like, what the intelligent automation is like as well. You know, how as an SME, how can we adopt RPA and AI solutions? And then talk a little bit more about NexBotix. You know, who are we, what is our solution, and how can it enable you, especially as an SME? We have reserved hopefully about 5 minutes at the end of this presentation for any questions. There is, Anne-Marie's notified me that there is a question and answer box at the bottom of your page on the right hand side. If you have any questions that you want to put in there, put them in there and I can answer them at the end. Equally, we'll open up the floor for any verbal questions as well. So let's get started. So the agenda, as I've mentioned today, is the challenges with enterprise solutions, especially those RPA solutions on the market. You know, how can you adopt them as being that SME? What do SMEs and SME market need from their solutions typically? And then how does NexBotix Intelligent Automation as a Service? How do we help you? What's our platform look like? Our Next Analytics, and equally talking a little bit more about our managed service. And then lastly, how do we get you started? Our approach, how do we approach it for you, and how do we get the results that you want to see, the results that you can benefit from RPA and AI. So let's kick off. So here are some of the challenges of enterprise solutions. Now, some of these are not just the RPA and AI market, but some of these are particularly around the kind of RPA and AI market when you're adopting those enterprise solutions. There's typically high upfront costs of implementation. That results in the fact that you have to pay large subscription costs up front. You have to look at thinking about maybe a third-party vendor to help you implement that. And then you have to think about experts and having the right team to manage and support that solution. And especially with RPA and AI, is that you need the right experts. And that usually is formed through a centre of excellence. And that takes quite a long time to establish. So typically you'll have long periods of time perhaps having consultancy or bringing in a team of people from a system integrator or an implementation partner, and it could take anything from 6 to 12 months. There's also in these solutions that are available on the market, they're very focused on the developer be able to create the solution. There's even some solutions on the market that say, you know, we want a bot for every single person. Sometimes that doesn't give you the results that you want to see. And they're actually lacking data and analytics as well, and something that's customizable to you. If you want to see a benefit, perhaps around accounts payable, you've automated that process, but you want to see from perhaps the CFO level that where is the ROI, where is the net benefit, where am I against target, but also where my accuracy rates as well about pulling out the data from those invoices. Those solutions are lacking in that, especially for the SME market. You also need complex infrastructure, and this can take quite a while. And we at NexBotix have been born out of a company called Camwood, and Camwood's been running for 21 years, but we've been doing RPA for about 3-4 years. And that traditional delivery of RPA and AI means that it can take quite a long time to have the infrastructure ready, having the support, not only having the experts on hand, but that large infrastructure on-prem can be quite costly as well and time consuming. And then equally bringing back to that kind of lack of support and training as well. So some of the solutions that are available on the market, they do have online support and training. But typically that's not enough. That's not enough to scale and see the real potential of what automation can do for you. So these are just some of the challenges that enterprise businesses, enterprise solutions don't fit for the SME market. And so what are SMEs actually looking for? So we want to see fast results. We want to see a quick ROI. If you're going to deploy the solution, especially in the environment that we are in at the moment, is you need to see the results. And that's really important. You don't have huge budgets. There's a lot of pressure to see results. And by deploying an enterprise solution and having large infrastructure, large implementation costs, and resource time can take months. And as I mentioned, it could take even 6 to 12 months to actually see anything deployed and live in the environment. And then you have flexible pricing. Now, a lot of as I said, the vendors are subscription. You sign up front, you pay a large cost, anything from 25 grand all the way up to 60 grand plus as a minimum. And that can be quite costly to the business and kind of suck all the budget that you have. But what happens if you could do something different? What happens if we could offer something that was a consumption or transactional based model? If these processes are being performed on that level, that are transactional, like accounts payable, why could we not charge on a transactional model? So that's something to think about. And then tracking, measuring results and the benefits that you've deployed. So you want those fast results, but you want to be able to, across the whole team, be able to track it and on a real-time basis. And the solutions out there just do not do them. They do not go in a granular real-time basis, and they're not customizable either. And then the last point is about having a huge amount of investments in resources, not having to have teams of people, SMEs that are trying to support this, having to support the ongoing costs. You might think about having, we've got a particular customer working with at the moment, and they have one RPA developer, that is it, but they have a huge backlog. And then there's pressure on the fact that you've got change management of perhaps the automations, having to support the existing automations that have been deployed. So there is a time spent that maybe 80% of it is spent on existing and not thinking about the future and scalability. So these are all the challenges that are facing the SME and SMB market. So what about us? And what's our proposition? How can we help you? So we actually see benefit 50% faster. And we do this completely differently. So we firstly look at business engagement. And that's the same whether you were doing this traditionally or if you were doing this in the kind of NexBotix, our RPA kind of accelerator for an SME market. So what we do, you would definitely find out, is this the right fit for the business? You identify a business case. And I'm going to talk a little bit later about actually what we do in NexBotix. But you would identify what are the challenges the business are having, and how can RPA help you, and what would be the ROI, what would be the benefit, what would be the direct and indirect savings of deploying such a solution. Now, the traditional enterprise RPA is that, as I've mentioned, setting up a center of excellence, roles and responsibilities, making sure that you have all the governance, change management in place. And this typically consists of around about 8 to 9 roles at a minimum. And most recently, working with a customer, they would be looking at a minimum of £250,000 per year to do that centre of excellence, having all the roles and the people to support it. You then build the process, and by that point, you might have automated some processes leveraging a third-party implementer, and then you scale. But the downfall about this is that this can take an awful long time. It can take months and months to do, getting the right people in place. And there's actually business cases out there, especially within the public sector, that it's genuinely taken 3 years to see 8 processes come to life. Now with us, we do it completely different. We've learned from what the market's doing. We've learned that the traditional enterprise RPA solution is just not quite right. It's not right for how you want to scale, adapt, and see the benefits quickly. As I said, especially in this kind of environment that we live in now. So we look to automate first. We find the benefits through our discovery workshops. We build out a solid business case, and I'll explain a little bit more about that later. And then we wrap around what we call a virtual center of excellence. Now, what that virtual center of excellence will do is we will do all the support management for you as a service. So I mentioned that customer that was 250,000 to support it. And I'll mention to you guys is that our virtual center of excellence can do exactly the same, support it and manage it, but at about a fifth or eighth of a cost of what that 250,000. So we really are kind of minimizing that cost down and making it appetite, appeasing to the business so they can start seeing the rewards. The benefit then means that they can scale and innovate. In 2 to 8 weeks, we can get the business up and running. And then typically you see ROIs of anything from 3 to 9 months with us, but we're also 50% more cost effective by doing this. So doing it in a different way through our as a service. So what is NexBotix? So NexBotix is an intelligent automation as a service. We have our own bots, but we also leverage third-party solutions on the market. And then we wrap around this intelligent automation as a service through this virtual center of excellence and through the components of our Next Analytics and our management service that we have. So what does that actually look like? So we firstly have our NexBotix platform, and that is market-leading technology, both, as I've mentioned, those leveraging third-party vendors on the market of the RPA, such as UiPath, Automation Anywhere, NICE, Abby, all the best solutions on the market. But equally, we have our own solution as well, which does exactly the same as the other vendors, but we do some really interesting things in them. I'm going to explain a little bit about that as well. We then pull that into our Next Analytics, and this is where you can really see the value. Now, I'm not going to show you a demo today, but what I will say is if you are interested in seeing a demo, please reach out to us and we can get you booked in to see a demo of the Next Analytics. Now, this is providing value even on top of those third-party vendors. Because typically you have your bot, your orchestrator, your perhaps studio. Again, with us, you don't need a studio because again, you've got that virtual center of excellence. But we pull the data out and we use that data to bring it to life for you. So you can actually see the life cycle management of all your automations, but also bring that into life in terms of what are my ROIs? What is my net benefit? When am I going to see the value? Am I on track to the benefits that I want to see? All of that you currently can't get within the current leading technologies in the market. We then have our virtual center of excellence. Our virtual center of excellence is where you have that full management service. So just like you would have resources on-prem, you'd have to go out and resource for developers, you can leverage our experts. Now, we have a combination of over 20 years of experience between the team, and they have the knowledge and experience of large-scale enterprises and smaller scale. So we can bring the best practices and governance to you. You don't need to go and find it. But then we equally are providing it as a service. So simple, medium, complex processes, you will have a number of hours that you can be able to call upon to support the things like change management for if the process changes slightly, or even if the application kind of changes. That's all included. You don't have to go out there and get extra budget for anything else. It's wrapped around in that virtual center of excellence. You've then got the management service, and that is through the virtual center of excellence. But the other gain about this is this is an extension of your existing team. We're always on hand to help you. And again, that's where all that experience comes from. So we help you right at the beginning in terms of finding the processes, building out a business case, and then finally actually bringing this to life for you. And through that process, we make a solid business case. And again, I'm going to explain a little bit more about that process at the end. So actually, what does that look like? So this is our NexBotix Intelligent Automation as a Service, the components of it. We have RPA that meets AI, and that can be, as I mentioned, third-party vendors or our own technology. And we also have solutions that are products that are off the shelf, which I'll explain a little bit as well. But we wrap that around with that virtual center of excellence. That's full governance and management through that. And then these are the components that you would get. You have a unified platform that aggregates all the solutions that you have on the market. So even if you are a large enterprise and you have multiple solutions in the market and you want to manage it in one place, and this is quite common, then this is where NexBotix can help you. And we can aggregate that out. But we also not only just offering RPA here, we're offering AI, we're offering the capabilities that are out there for everything, all the processes that you have in one single place. We then can use all the data of those different solutions or the single solution you have deployed, and then we have that in our Next Analytics. So this is where you can see the real kind of ROIs, net benefit, accuracy rates, FTE savings, the important KPIs of your digital workforce through one single view. And that can be customized. And part of the process of onboarding is that we will find out what is more important for you. You've then got flexible pricing models. So we do have, can offer pay-as-you-go and transactional pricing models. So this is where it is helping the SME market. When I go back to one of those comments before on the original slide kind of 2, talking about large subscription costs. And when we go into some of our customers, they have these big licenses and they're only utilizing around 30 to 40%. So actually you're not getting the most out of the licensing. Whereas when we offer this flexible pricing model, where it's, for instance, with the accounts payable, and for one of our customers most recently, we went in, did a discovery workshop, identified that the accounts payable process was costing £2.50 per invoice. And we're now charging 90p per invoice. And that 90p includes everything for them: the software, the support, the requirements in terms of actually creating the process and supporting it. It has everything that they need to bring that process to life. They're now automating on around about 88% of the process, and that is increasing day by day with the use of not only RPA, but also AI built into that accounts payable. Now that is accounts payable brings me nicely onto the next step, which is our plug and play. So we have products that are available off the shelf. And these are processes typically found across many different verticals. And for instance, with the accounts payable process, this is typically a process that we see across many verticals. We've recently had a manufacturing customer, we've also had a housing association customer, and we also have a large recruitment company as well. All of them have this very similar accounts payable process, and we have this product off the shelf available, and each one of those customers were available to get that process live within 2 weeks, which is fantastic. And then the last kind of point is the fact that we can automate at scale. This is back to the infrastructure problem. We can offer this on cloud, so we can host it for you, so you don't have to think about the large infrastructure costs. But equally, if you're a secure environment, you want to keep it on-prem, we can do that as well. So when we think about the bigger competitors on the market, what they're doing, some of them are only offering on-prem and some of them are only offering on cloud. We can do both, and we can do a hybrid environment as well. So this is NexBotix, Intelligent Automation as a Service, and how we're helping. So how do we actually help you as an SMB, and how do we actually get you started? So this is the journey that we take you on. We first do a business engagement, which is the same as what you would do with any kind of business, any business that would do, finding out whether is a solution the kind of what we want to do, is it the right time, is it where are our biggest challenges, where do we start? And then once we identify that, we go through a discovery workshop phase. Now this is completely free of charge. It's complimentary, and the reason why we offer it complimentary is it's really vital that one, we're building that buy-in, but two, that there's an understanding about what we're trying to achieve here, and three, that you've got a solid business case to move forward. One of the biggest downfalls of RPA is that people start with processes that don't see benefit quickly, and then it fails, and then they turn around and say, oh, I don't want to do this again. But actually, if you go back and you find the right processes to automate, you will see benefit. And we see that with all of our customers because we go through this process quite rigorously, and the team providing this. And we don't need huge amounts of time from you. So we do the discovery workshop, we have a pre-discovery call, and we do this as a top-down approach. Now, we do this as a top-down approach, so we don't have months and months of doing discovery with you. By doing top-down, we're asking the business leaders, what are your challenges? What are you facing? Give us a top level down about the processes that you have, identify the metrics, and then be able to say, right, those are the processes that initially we go in and have a look. We don't want to spend 6 months doing a consultancy with you. We want to spend 3 hours, 4 hours with you and be able to give you a solid business case. So we can do that efficiently, and that's from the experience of the team. We then analyze that, then we build that solid business case. Now, that business case not only includes your business case, but it includes a high-level solution design. So that's understanding what the process would look like if it's automated. And then also, what is the implementation plan and cost to actually bring this to life? So what is your kind of 3-year ROI? What's your benefit? How do we get this started? Where's our recommendations as well? We then go through perhaps a phase of proof, and we completely get this. You've got to build the business buy-in. You've got to understand that, is this solution right? So typically our customers decide to go for a pilot or a proof of concept. Proof of concept won't provide something that goes live, but it will provide you with the art of the possible. The pilot, in fact, actually brings it to life, and we can do 6 weeks. You know, I've talked about the accounts payable process. We've done that for a couple of customers now, that you do it for 6 weeks and see how it actually achieves the results. Around that 90p, is it providing the results you want to see, the accuracy rates, the automation rate, and also savings of potential cost as well. And we do that in a proof stage. Then you get to a run service, and that's where it gets interesting, because you've achieved it, you've achieved the success criteria that we've put down, and now you're actually launching it into all the different areas within the business and building out a further scope for processes. And that's then supported through your NexBotix Virtual Centre of Excellence. Now, your Virtual Centre of Excellence is on your Next Analytics, and that's where you can go on there, add additional processes, see what level there are in terms of their journey and life cycle, and then you've got the ability to scale. Think about where this goes. And if I bring it back to our customer who was the accounts payable, we started with 1 business area, and now it's scaling to 5 other business areas. So you're going to see the benefit, a huge benefit. In 3 years, they should just see under £5 million worth of saving, and that's just in the accounts payable process and another process that they've decided to go with across those 5 business areas. So that leads me on really nicely, and I think on timing wise as well. So thank you so much for today. And this was just a bit of an insight about what we do and how we're helping the SME market. I now open the floor up for any questions. So it looks like I've got one question, and it just talks a little bit more about the actual process of the discovery workshops. So the process and how much time, I think I've mentioned it a little bit, but what we do is we do a first, as I said, a kind of a pre-discovery call. That's typically maybe only half an hour. We ask for a questionnaire to be filled out as a top-down approach. So these would be heads of department. They provide that information back. We analyze it based on metrics, based on the challenges, and based on the problems that the customer you might be having. And then we look to take around about 2 or 3 processes from that to do a further deep dive. So where are your biggest pain points? Now, those sessions only require around about an hour per process. So we are not asking, because we do understand, and I had this recently with a customer, especially in finance, I don't have 2 weeks to spend with you guys. We don't need that. We need around about 3 hours on maximum, and that will enable us. We've done this many a times, and it still provides the results found. As long as we get the correct information, the correct metrics, and we're talking to the right SMEs, and we can pull that data together and ensure that that's the right result for you. So that's about the discovery workshop, a little bit more in depth. So I've also got, can the workshops be managed remotely due to the current environment? Absolutely. We used to do these face-to-face, but that's obviously changed, and they're working really well. So we do it all remotely. It's all via Teams or via Zoom, whatever is the preference of the customer. and it's all done in that virtual environment. We still get the data. The important thing is that the SME is able to share their screen when they walk through the process. But that's all that we require, really. So I have got, can you explain the licensing, both pay-as-you-go and transactional licensing when hosting third-party, and question about utilization. So the licensing, as I said, we do leverage third-party. So if you do go down the third-party route, that's completely different. But I'll give you the example of UiPath. You typically need an orchestrator, your bot, to perform the processes in a studio. We no longer need the studio if you go for the as a service, because what we will need is just the orchestrator and the bot. Now that isn't in our transactional or consumption-based price modeling. Now NexBotix, which does exactly the same as what UiPath can do on the unattended, is that we can offer that on transactional and transactional consumption. Now, transactional is based on the process, but consumption is based on actually what you consume. So you're paying as you use. Starts from £2.50 and then it goes all the way down to 50p per hour. And then in terms of hosting, that's all including the cost that we charge. We have our platform cost of Next Analytics, but that's included. That includes all the kind of the infrastructure and the kind of third party, kind of what's the infrastructure cost for you as well. That's all in there. And then utilization for the third party is we can pull that data into the Next Analytics for you as well. But we can advise you on the best solutions for you, and we can advise you on what the best cost model as well. And then I've got one more question. How long does it take to get the results from the discovery workshop? So the discovery workshop, once we've completed them, it takes around about five working days. It can be quicker depending on how many processes, but that's usually the point that once we've finished discovery, we come back and get back in touch with you to actually organise a presentation back to you, and we present back the findings and also proposal with an implementation plan and business case. So that's roughly around about 5 working days, I would say. I think that's all questions. I thank you very much today for your time. I hope you have a wonderful day. And of course, if you are interested in a discovery workshop or even just seeing a demo of the platform, then please reach out after this call. I'm more than happy to book that in for you.